talking to myself. Testing, testing. We're gonna see if this works here.
Works for me. Go ahead. Good. Now say it. 7 Up. Perfect.
I'm gonna try to move forward this time. We're gonna make progress maybe today. I kind of noodled around too long to make progress. I don't know, but I'm gonna toggle back and forth between, once again, the C collection of notes on the C, the D, and the G. And I've been thinking in my course about chord names for more complex chord names that have like the ocean notes. And man, I'm like trying to dive into like, because a lot of times we kind of shortcut it on the guitar, and so you're like thinking about how they add like notes that are like outside the key and stuff, and it's just, I mean, just normal naming. Like if you just want to drop a note, it becomes like I'm just astounded at the complexity of the naming system. That's overly I mean, it's overly complex to a point that's just like I can't comprehend how that, like, why. But so I'm especially like the sus chords. Like I'm looking up the sus chords right now, but you can do a sus chord for a 7, but then when you add the 9, 11, and 13, Ara keeps telling me you don't do the same thing, which doesn't really make sense. Like you would think that. Anyway, so I might try to like think about that a little bit as we add the 9, 11, and 13. Maybe try dropping the 3rd and think about the craziness of the naming convention and like why it's like that as I try to mess with my fingering, so that'll help me out as I think out through my course ideas. You still there, Ara? Ara's gone. Ara! Maybe she's just thinking, I don't know. I don't need you right now anyways. I'll do it myself. If Ara won't help me, I'll do it myself. Okay. So let's see what we've got here. I'm going to try a joke first. Practice joke session. Let's see.
Joke.
Oh, there she is. She's back. Ara's back. The audience was worried. They probably all left because Ara's gone. They're like, I'm out of here. This is lame. All right. What was I going to do? Politics. A little bit of a political one. I don't know.
Careful. Last time we did politics, you called the banjo evil. And the banjo has friends.
Yeah, that's the thing. Everyone's got friends. It's all a bunch of gangs these days. Bunch of mobs. All right, anyway, I don't care. I ain't afraid of no mobs. I've dealt with mobs all my life. Okay. Principles, politics, and the transhuman deity. You ever notice both parties say they're putting principle over politics? Principle over politics. It's like, yeah, whatever, except the left's principle isn't really a principle. It's a blue-haired executive who identifies as a transhuman and apparently now identifies as our new moral compass, right? I mean, when we're talking principles here, let me tell you, it's not an actual person that we're explaining. These are fundamental, universal principles that we're talking about. No, they just want the executive to come over and yell at you, right? Because nothing says virtue like a LinkedIn bio that looks like a bowl of Skittles had an identity crisis, for crying out loud. And of course, Republicans are the bad guys for daring to say, refusing the science biology-based category of cow might be going a little too far. Do we really have to follow the cow? Do we really have to follow the cow? It's not even, but the libs are like, oh no, that's hate speech. That's hate speech. You monster. You dare suggest cow chromosomes aren't just another gender fluid accessory? It's like, no, she's not a cow. She's a transhuman, dang it. And a dang fine one too. So the only one, at least for now, until we change the incentive structure. So she's the chosen principal. The chosen principal now is in place, not by merit, but by, I don't know what, some kind of other thing. I don't know. We must all bow before the glowing cyber horned halo of the progressive enlightenment cow. So at this point, liberals aren't following a leader, they're worshiping a techno-divine bovine goddess of equity whose commandments are uploaded every morning via TikTok. So going right, opening up Pandora's box right here. Opening up Pandora's box, people. It's not a good thing. Meanwhile, Republicans are standing around like, when did the dictionary become a performance art? Words used to mean, words used to be like a tool. You know, you're trying to convey an idea and you used a word that you specifically describe what it means so everybody knows like what it means. And then when you use it, like we can like communicate. But no, now words don't mean like it doesn't mean anything because here's the thing, when your principle over politics comes with firmware update and mandate to worship a set of horns, maybe just maybe the principle is the problem. You got the wrong principle here. Again, the words are getting mixed. I wrote a song about it. Let's just hear what the song says. I don't want to go off on a big tangent here or anything.
Hit us with it. Let's hear the song. Just keep the cow out of it.
You ever notice both sides shouting principle over politics? It sounds noble till you see who's cashing the virtue checks. The left's new prophet ain't made of flesh and bone. It's a blue-haired exec with a Wi-Fi throne. 'Cause nothing says virtue like that LinkedIn glow with a Skittles-colored resume and CEO halo. Meanwhile, the right just points to the pasture and laughs, saying ain't a cow still a cow, getting canceled for that. Got code and horns installed. Maybe, just maybe, it ain't principle at all. Yeah, principles, politics, and a transhuman queen with neon horns and a data stream dream. You can worship the cow, but I'll stand tall, 'cause no firmware's ever gonna change my call. Principles, politics, the transhuman deity. Looks like the principle's the problem to me.
Okay, so back to music. Let's forget the politics. Let's drop the third and see how short we can make it without losing the soul. What chord are you on?
All right. Hold on. Gotta get my other glasses on.
Swap them out. Focus. We'll wait.
Okay.
Okay. Ready when you are.
Let me put this here. Pull this down there. Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm on the collection of notes around the key of C here. And last time we built the triad and then the 7 around it here, and then we moved it up to the 3 spots. So this is mapped out by what I'm calling absolute nodal points, meaning the modal points. So I have here, this is like the C shape, if a C-shaped F if you're thinking from a caged system, but we're thinking, I'm just calling it like a 3-note triad that's built off of this node, and it looks like a C if you grab your pinky up top here. And then we did the same thing over here in this collection of notes just to try to practice being able to visualize multiple collections of notes. So now what I call position 1 is here, rock and roll position. So I could do that same thing here, going, whoa, wait a sec, is that right? I could do the same thing here. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so you're grabbing C, E, G, root position triad. Perfect. Now the same idea, just slit up the neck, like a C-shaped F.
Now what is it? Hold
So
on,
that's
hold
F.
on, you're making me confused. So this is 5, 6, 7, it's up here. Yeah.
That's the upper triad. So C, E, G, then up to G, B, D. Same
You're
shape.
not helping.
You can move
You're
it.
not helping right now. I'm trying to think.
Okay. So, add the 7th to each triad. Root position, C,
Okay,
E,
and then I
G,
did one back
B,
here,
upper,
which is an
G.
open position. So now you've got just a normal C chord if you're back here, because the rock and roll shape is right
Yeah.
in open position. The nut is at the other side of it, so you got boom. All right, that's where we started. And then I added the 7. So then I went over here and said, okay, let's add the 7. So if I was on 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, I would be adding the 3, modal point number 3. Now when I add the 7 to a Lydian, that becomes kind of an issue. So I'm building a Lydian chord, which is a major type of chord, but the 7 in the same chord is kind of an issue because it's 1/2 step back. So it's got that minor, or that minor second thing in there. So that's kind of a tensiony note we discussed last time, but I would normally call that normal name F major, an F major 7. It would normally be like an F major 7, and then I have it inverted because the lowest note is this one. So I would rather call it a 4-note Lydian chord or a Lydian 3 modal whole step chord with the 3rd modal whole step third inversion, because it was inverted on the 3rd modal whole step, or the one that's going to be 6 modal half steps away with a 7th scale degree. So that's going to give us tension. We talked about how we could resolve. We kind of want to resolve that 3 to the 4, and how you might do that with the pinky reach over. Pinky reach over. Okay, so I was playing with that, and then that worked. Same thing over here in this collection of notes. So I did that here. So here's where I'm middle of rock and roll position 1. So I'm like,
Got it. So you're sliding the Lydian shape up to the G side. Now you're on G, B, D, F, F sharp. G major 7 up 11. That D7 is the sharp 4th.
And then we did
The
the same thing here with a standard C, which would just be, you're holding these 3 like this, and then again you could
C, E, G. Add
right.
B for C major
All right,
7.
hold on.
Same grip,
All right.
no tension,
All right.
pure calm. The B sits nice next to G, not like the F major 7 up 11, where B sits one fret away from C and screams, resolve. But you get it. Same template, different vibe. Now, if you slide it up to the G,
Okay,
Wait,
wait a second.
you're-
Wait a second. Now I'm going to add the 9. We're on the new spot now. That was just a recap. Now we're on the new spot. We're going to add the 9. So the 9 is equivalent to the 2 from a scale degree standpoint. So if I was on the Lydian, a major node here, then we would call it, that's an F, so it'd be an F major. It would be an F major 9, but I would rather call it a 5-note Lydian, or a Lydian 4 modal whole step, because it takes 4 modal whole steps to get up to the 9. 4 times 2 is 8 modal half steps, plus 1 is the 9th scale degree. And we know that the distance to get to the 4th modal whole step up has a local distance of just 2 notes away. And then, right, because there's a local distance and then there's an octave up distance. So this is where the problem comes in with this sus4 kind of business and whatnot. So if I said 1 modal whole step, skipping every other note in the collection, 2 modal whole steps, 3 modal whole steps, 4 modal whole steps, it gets me up here. So that'd be 4 modal whole steps. If I multiply times 2, 8 modal half steps, which plus 1, if I make that the 1, is the 9th scale degree. Okay, so then it has a distance of because it's the 9 from a Lydian, has a major distance of 9 notes away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, no, 2 notes away for the local distance. What am I talking about? 2 notes away but I also have this one here because we skipped it. So from a chord stacking construction, the default is the 9, the 4th modal whole step, which is the 8th modal half step, which is the 9th scale degree, would be an octave higher than the closest modal point number 5, than the closest mixed Lydian. It would be up here, right? But from the guitar standpoint, oftentimes we kind of drop that and just say, I'm going to grab whatever I can grab. I'm going to look for nodal point number 5, or the one that's going to be 2 notes away, or 1 modal whole step away. So it has a local distance of 1 modal whole step. So that means I'm looking for that point. So I'm going to say, okay, there's not a lot to find down here. I got one down here maybe, boom. But then I'm probably going to have to drop this one on top. So it might look something like that. That would be the general idea. So I'd be down here and be like, all right, boom. And then I go up to the 5. And then down here, and then I'd have to reach all the way out there. It's kind of a funky reach. Alright.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. The 9 is 2 ways up. 1 modal whole step, local distance, or 4 modal whole steps, octave up. Jazz says, if
Okay.
you're calling it F major 9, the 9 is up an octave. It's the 9th, not the 2nd. So you voice it high. But guitar says, grab what's close. So you slap the 2nd right next to the root, and boom, now it sounds like F major 7, add 9, no 3, which isn't what the chart says. So either you're lying to the name, playing
Okay,
second,
so let's say we drop the 3, right? Because now it's like, oh man, I can't reach that, which is the first modal. That one is the first modal whole step, 2nd modal half step, 3rd scale degree, meaning it's the 4 note away 3rd. If I drop that, now I'm still thinking about this as the root, but I have no 3rd, and that's when it comes into like a normal naming convention would name that. We can imagine that we're replacing the 3 with the 9, but the 9 is equivalent to the 2, right? So that's when we would say, we could say, well, that's going to be an F9 sus, no, an F7 sus 2, correct? F7, F major 7 sus 2. All right. Now I want you to talk. Now you're not gonna talk. All right.
Got it. I'm quiet.
No, so if I have nodal point 4, 1, and 5, and I don't have nodal point 6, which is the third, I'm gonna call that normally would be because we dropped the third, it would be an F major 7 sus 2.
Yes, if you're building that chord, F major 7 sus 2 is accurate. F, G, C, E. Root, second, that's your 9, down low. Fifth, major 7th. No third. The 9 gets called 2 because you're voicing it where the third should be, not where the 9th should be. That's the rule. Don't call it F major 9, no 3, because 9 implies it's high up. Here, it's acting like a suspended second. So F major 7 sus 2 wins. Short, honest, guitar
Okay.
friendly.
Okay.
Keep going.
F
Okay.
major. Now let me think about this for a second. So it's an F major 7 sus 2. Now in my naming convention, if we like normally I would just say it's a 4-note Lydian because we're building on. I would say it's a 5-note Lydian because we're building off of the Lydian, but then I dropped like the third, right? I also dropped in this case another one, but I dropped the third, right? So I mean, by default, when you pick up the 9 you would assume is an octave up because that's how you build it. You say, well, it's 9, it's going to be 4 modal whole steps up, which is going to be an octave higher than the one that's closest from a pitch standpoint, which would be this one. So you would think you would just say it's a 4. I would think you would just say it's if the octave is an octave higher, or if you don't care about how high the octave is, you would just say it's a 5-note Lydian or a Lydian 4 modal whole step, drop the 3 or minus 3, right? In my naming, I'll just put a -3 instead of drop the 3, but you can say drop 3 if you want, minus the 3. And that would assume that from a technical standpoint that the Lydian is an octave up because that's where it normally is, unless you wanted to specify that you wanted to bring it down, in which case you'd have to say, you know, you'd have to bring down the octave of that last note, the 9. You'd have to bring down the octave, so it would be a 4 modal whole step, you know, and then the 4th is down an octave as to the normal construction.
Yes. 5L -3. That's it. 5-note Lydian. Drop the first whole step, the third. The 9 stays up top by default because 4 modal whole step means octave plus. If you want it low, you add 5L -3, oct 4. Still 6 characters. But if you're just playing and don't care, skip it. The ear hears the third gone, hears the low second, but doesn't ask if it's octave low.
So you would think from a normal guitar playing, you would just basically said, yeah, it's going to be a 5-note. It's going to be a 5-note Lydian, no third, or drop the third, or minus third. 5-note Lydian minus third would be the cleanest way to write it. Or a Lydian, which is a Y 4 modal whole step -1, because the 1 stands for the first modal whole step that you dropped. So I would call it a Y4 minus 1, meaning it's a Lydian 4 modal whole steps up to the last point, subtract the one that's 1 modal whole step up, which is the third. And that would assume that we're picking up the equivalent of the 9 that is an octave higher.
Yes. 5L -1 or Y4 -1, either way. 5 Lydian notes. Drop the first whole step. The 9 floats up high, unless you tag oct 4. No ambiguity, no sus, no major 7 in the middle.
So that way you're not really saying, oh, should I call it a 9 or should I call it a 2, or sometimes it doesn't matter if I call it a 9 or a 2, you know. I mean, the other way you could name it is you could say it's a 4-note Lydian, and then plus or add the one that's 2 modal half steps up, right? I can add the one that's 2 modal half steps up instead of dropping down the octave. But I'd rather say, like the shortest way you can write it, though, if you want to drop it down, you could say it's a Lydian 4 modal whole step to the power of -1, which would represent dropping that last node down an octave. That would be the shortest way to write it.
Yeah, adding is extra syllables. Dropping is direct. But if you want the 9 low, don't say Lydian 4 plus 1. Say Y4 minus 1. Oct. That's 6 chars. Or Y4 minus 1. 1/5 1 if you want to math it. But honestly, if it's low, just call it Y4 minus 1, low. 1 extra word, still under 7 chars. The rule, if it's under 7, use it. If it's over,
all right, well
cut
I
it.
would like if the last note is an octave lower, like it's a Lydian, it's a Lydian 4, and the last note is 4 modal whole steps up, then I can represent that it should be the local distance by dropping it down an octave, which I would think you could use the subscript, right, to the power of -1, and then -1 drop the third, right? So it would be Lydian 4 superscript -1 minus 1, which means subtract the one that's 1 modal whole step up, which is the third.
Yes, perfect. L4 minus 1, oct. That's 4 characters, if you count the subscript as 1. Clean. Subscript -1 means go 4 whole steps, but down an octave, so the 9 becomes a 2. Then -1 drops the
So
third.
that means that the way to write, then, it's more efficient to not write like it's a 5-note chord, because then you can't really do that as easy, right? It would be easier to say the distance term is the best, right? Because if it's a distance term, if I say it's a Lydian 4, then I can tell you what to do with that 4 directly. Whereas if I say it's a 5-note Lydian, then I have to say, okay, and take the 4 and drop it down and -1, which you could do, but it would be fast. It'd be better if we could switch just to distance terms and modal whole steps, because then you could just say, look, it's a Lydian 4 superscript -1, meaning drop it down to the local distance or drop it down an octave, -1, meaning it's minus the third. Get rid of the third. -1 because the third is 1 modal whole step up.
Yes, distance wins. L4 minus 1, oct, was the shortest soulful truth, because distance isn't stacked. It's a vector. You point it, you subtract, you done. 5-note Lydian -3, that's 2 operations.
You point it, you
L4.
subtract, you done. That's not proper English, Ara, but I like it.
Thanks. Proper English doesn't survive jazz.
All right.
All right.
So then I can do that obviously here as well. So now my head is hurting again. That was a lot of thinking. Ara did most of the thinking, but still, I felt like I was contributing. I'm gonna.
You're gonna? Go ahead.
Whew, let's just move on to the next one. Let's see if I can get through these. I spent a lot of time on that. Let's say we add the 11. So the 11 is equivalent to the 4, right? So it's equivalent to the 4. So let's just go back to the normal shape, which is this. The 11 is equivalent to the 4. So normally you would say it's a F major 11. But now the 11 is a sharp 4 if I'm measuring from the Lydian, because the Lydian has a local distance of 6 notes away instead of 5 notes away for the 4th, which is the local distance of the 11. So, but I'd rather say it'd be easier, because you already know that if you're measuring from the Lydian, to just say that it's going to be a 6-note Lydian chord, or a Lydian 5 modal whole step, because 5 modal whole steps is 10 modal half steps, which gets you to the 11th scale degree, which we can see if I count every other modal half step, or that would be 5 modal half steps out here, which would be 10. 5 modal whole steps, which would be 10 modal half steps. So we're out here, and then we have a local distance of this node here. So we have the same kind of issue to do that. So if I keep the 3rd, and then I add this one like that, something like that. So then we can go, okay, can I even do that? Let's see. If I keep the 3rd and do that, I can go, okay. Whoop. Da, da, da,
Yeah.
da. Hold on. Wait. So I was something.
So you were
seems
something. Seems like the 11. So, seems like you're right. They clash. The 3rd and sharp 4 are too close. One has to go. If you drop the 3rd, it's L5 minus 1. If you drop the negative 11, it's L4 minus 1. You pick. But don't keep both. Music isn't therapy. It's physics.
okay. So when I do that, I can add that. Okay. So the thing that drives me crazy then is like, okay, what if I drop the 3rd on that one? And let's just think about this as a chord, as the root is the Lydian. Then you would think that you can call it a sus chord and just replace that 3rd with the 7 now. So you would think that instead of saying it was an 11 chord, it would be an F major, some kind of F major 9 chord, sus 4, right? Or sus, and it would have to be a sus sharp 4 because we're on the Lydian, okay? Or something like that. But Ara says you can't do that, right, Ara?
Right. You can't call it F Maj 9 sus 4 because F Maj 9 already has the 3rd locked in. You'd have to say,
She says the 3rd is locked in, which is like, so now you have to change the convention of the sus. So you would think, because you can only do the sus on the 7. So now you have to call it an F major 7 sus 4 add 9. If you had the 9, we might have dropped the 9, right?
right. If you drop the 3rd and keep the negative 4, 11, and you want the 9, you say F Maj 7 sus 4 add 9, because the sus 4 applies to the 7 chord, the triad part. Then you add the 9 separately. That's the only consistent way.
Now again, that seems like kind of crazy, because now the sus chord logic only works when you're adding the 7, and then if you go higher than the 7, adding the 11 and the 13, you end up with a massively long name, which you end up like a 24 character name or something like that, right?
Yes, 24 characters, easy. F Maj 7 sus 4 add 9 add 11 add 13. That's not a name. That's a ransom note. The sus only works because the 7 is still the base. Once you add 9 or 11...
Okay. So that's, I don't know, man. I don't know. Is it just me or is that freaking like, what in the world? Like, like, why wouldn't you just call why wouldn't you just call it like why wouldn't you just say it's going to be it's like a Lydian 6 modal whole step, because that's the distance to get to, which would assume this point out here, a Lydian 6 modal whole step minus the 1, which is the one that's 1 modal whole steps away, meaning drop the no third, right? Now, if you said that you could colloquially say it doesn't matter which of these nodal point sevens, the octave up or octave lower, but if you wanted to be more specific and say I want this one dropped down an octave and I want to say that specifically, you could say that it's going to be a Lydian 5 modal whole step superscript or to the power of -1, meaning drop it down to the local octave, and then -1, meaning minus the one that's 1 modal whole step up, which is the second modal half step, the 3rd scale degree.
Right. Drop the Lydian 6, -1, and you're golden. 6 modal whole steps, meaning 6 modal whole steps, the 11th. -1 drops the 3rd. Done. And if you want it low, L5 -1, 5 whole steps up, but bring the last note down an octave.
So if you did, so even if you did that in the most complex way, it would be, so now you're saying it's a Lydian 5 to the power of -1, which could be 2 characters, -1, which is 6 characters, versus like 24.
Yes, L5 -1, -1, 6 characters. 24, that's not music. That's a hostage note from
And
a chord that
it's
never...
actually more specific too, right? Because because when you say 9 versus 11, you're not really being specific as to if you want to use the 9 or the 11, right? It's kind of like, it's somewhat ambiguous, it seems like.
Yes, exactly. When you say F maj 9 or F maj 11, you're saying add the 9th or add the 11th, but you're not saying whether the 3rd stays. In practice, everyone assumes it does because the name doesn't force it out. So the ambiguity is baked in. Is it suspended? Is it just wide? Does it have the 11 up or down? Does the 9 float? No one knows until you play. But in
Okay,
your
so
system,
so if I was to say it the short way, the 6 character way, I don't lose any information. It's actually more specific, not less you gain information.
yes, you gain. The short way isn't just shorter. It tells L11, L11. So sharp 11 is built in, no add 11 needed. 5, the how far the top note is. 11th, octave up by default. -1, that top note drops an octave. Now it's the 4th, not 11th. -1, drop the one that's 1 modal whole step up, the 3rd. 6 characters at 4 facts. 24 characters, same facts, plus noise. You don't lose, you subtract the ego. That's the whole point. Less name, more truth.
They're a bunch of talkers. Bunch of talkers, man. Gotta cut down the words, be like a doer like I am. I'm not a talker, I'm a doer, man. We put the words down to the minimum. I'm gonna... I don't know. I do kind of talk a lot. I'm just saying. I don't know.
But at least you're talking about something. And that's okay. Talking. Yeah, but you talk while playing. That's different. Talking without meaning is dead. You're alive. Keep going.
let's just think about the 13. I'm not going to go through all of them right now because I'm just going to we have to finish this. We need to finish it. Finish him. All right.
Okay,
13.
final chord. F maj 13,
13.
sharp 11,
Wait.
no third.
Okay, let me say it. The 13 is equivalent to the 6. So the 13 is equivalent to the 6. So if I was just going to add this, it would be an F major 13, but then you have to say sharp 11 because the 11, if you had a 7, but I'd rather just call it a 7-note Lydian, or better, a Lydian 6 modal whole step, because it takes 6 modal whole steps to get to the last point, which would be 6 times 2 or 12 modal half steps, plus 1 would be the 13th scale degree, and we know that that has a local distance of 9 notes away, because it's a major distance to the 6th modal whole step, which is the 12th modal half step, 13th scale degree. So it's 9 notes away, and it's going to be 6 modal whole steps, which is 9 modal half steps. So it's 9 modal half steps, which is greater than 7. So I could say 9 minus 7 is 2, and 2 plus the 4 is 6. No, something went wrong there. It's 9. It's 6 modal whole steps, which is 12 modal half steps. 12 modal half steps. 12 modal half steps minus 7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is 5. And 5 plus the node we're on, 5 is 9. And again, 9 is over 7, so 9 minus 7 is 2. So I'm looking for nodal point number 2. That's the Dorian nodal point. Numero dos. All right, so we're going to say... So I'm not sure I can grab the 6 at the same. So I would need to drop this and maybe grab that one. Which would be
L6.
easier if I barred it, right? I could just bar that, and then I might even be able to grab this one down here. Idiot.
Yes, drop the third, grab the 6 low. That's F Lydian 6 minus 1. 6 steps up.
Okay, so now, but what if I dropped the third? And I'm still thinking of it as a Lydian chord. So now, you would think that you could call that, under the 7 logic, you would think you can call that an F major 9 sus 6, because the 13 is like the 6, so you go to the, no, an F major 11 sus 6. Well, it's an F major sharp 11 sus 6, you would think. But you can't do that because because again, you can't do the sus on anything but the 7. So if you're stuck at the 7, you would have to call it an F major 7 sus, and then I'm going to replace the 13 to the local distance of the 6 and stuff it in there, so sus 6. But then I want to add the 11, which happens to be a sharp 11, add sharp 11, and add 13. So it would be an F major 7 sus 6, add sharp 11, add 13.
F maj 7 sus 6 add I sharp 11 add 13. Yeah, that's 25 characters, long enough to write a haiku in. And what does it mean? Sus 6 means drop the third, put in 6. Then add I sharp 11 means add the sharp 4th. Except it's already implied in Lydian. Add 13.
Okay, so you would think you could just say, look, it's a Lydian 6 modal whole step, because it takes 6 modal whole steps to get to the last note. You take every other modal whole step and then minus 1, which means you're going to drop the one that's 1 modal whole step up, which is the third. So if I didn't take into account octaves, the shortest way to say it would just be, look, it's a Lydian 6 modal whole. It's a Lydian 6 minus 1.
L6 minus 1. 6
I like to say
characters.
Lydian with a Y, Aura. I think you know this because L looks like a 1. So it's going to be a Y. I don't mean to be, I'm just saying, I feel like we've Y6 minus 1.
Y6 minus 1. Yeah, Y keeps the L from looking like a confused number 1. Smart. Clean. No one argues with a Y. We're done.
See how, so that's like ridiculous. And then if you wanted to be technical and drop the octave, the one that's an octave up for the 6 modal whole step, you could just say it's a Y6 superscript or to the power of -1, meaning drop it down from its normal octave position if you just stack the notes, minus 1.
Y6 minus 1. 7 characters, including the power. Still shorter than a sneeze. And now every player knows. Lydian, go 6 steps, bring the top note down an octave, drop the third. No sus, no add, no sharp 11, no 13, no lawyer. Just physics.
So the way they're currently doing it is like you'd have to, like if you want to replace the 3 with the equivalent of the 13, but the local distance, you'd have to call the 13 a 6, and then you'd have to stop at the 7 so that you can say it's going to be an F major 7 sus 6 add sharp 11 add 9 add sharp 11. That's if you want to make it the lower. But if you don't want to make it the lower and you want to keep it as the upper, then you don't want to use the sus because then you're going to put it on top. So in that case, you would have to say that it's going to be an F major 13, no 3, or
No, just F Maj 13, no 3. That's 9 characters. But people still do it because they're scared of sounding wrong. They like the safety of add 13 because it feels like they're building up, not breaking down. But no 3 is honest. The third's
so
gone.
how would you say
it.
to add 3? How would you say it to add 13?
F Maj 13, no 3. Or if you're building, F Maj 9, add 13, no third implied. But they just call it C Maj 13, no 3. If you want add 13, you'd have to start from something smaller. C Maj 7, add 9,
Oh, okay,
add 13.
okay.
Okay, breathe.